It's Friday evening, July 15th, 2022. Poul Nguzo Ndamoy stands outside his car in Jouberton's Extension 16, wearing designer clothes, chatting with someone. Within seconds, three men step out of a white Toyota Quantum minibus and shoot him dead. The hit is clean, professional, executed in broad daylight in a township already marked as a crime hotspot. Ndamoy wasn't just another victim. He was a 40-year-old alleged leader of the local Al-Qaeda gang, a man with serious pending murder charges, and someone who had just spent 2 months navigating the courts. His assassination raises a question that cuts through the noise. Was this revenge from rival gangsters, or did his own organization decide he had become too dangerous to keep alive? Poul Ndamoy moved through Jouberton with the confidence of someone insulated by power and money. Witnesses noted his preference for expensive clothing, the kind that signals wealth in a township where most residents struggle. On the night he died, he was leaning against his vehicle, relaxed, engaged in conversation. There was no visible alarm, no attempt to flee. For a man allegedly running a violent criminal syndicate, this level of comfort suggests either overconfidence or a miscalculation about the threat he faced. Ndamoy's nickname, Nguzo, carried weight in Klerksdorp's organized crime circles. Police identified him as a high-ranking member of the gang known locally as Al-Qaeda, one of 3 major syndicates operating in the Jubeton area. The others were Boko Haram and Vietnam. These names carry inflammatory associations, but the Klerksdorp gangs have no ideological or operational ties to the international terrorist organizations. They are profit-driven criminal enterprises focused on extortion, contract violence, illegal mining connections, and capturing municipal resources. The appropriation of these globally recognized names functions as branding, a calculated use of fear and notoriety to intimidate rivals and local residents. The gangs compete primarily over 2 revenue streams. First, they extort protection fees from local businesses, especially small shops known as tuck shops. This system operates like an illegitimate tax, where business owners pay regular sums in exchange for not being attacked. Second, the gangs aggressively pursue municipal tenders and construction contracts. Members have been documented storming municipal offices, demanding to be awarded work on infrastructure projects. Once they secure these contracts, they extract money through inflated invoicing and extortion at construction sites, threatening workers and demanding both cash and employment opportunities for gang members. This economic model requires control over specific geographic zones. The gang that dominates a neighborhood controls the protection racket and can monopolize tender opportunities in that area. Violence is the primary mechanism for establishing and defending this control. When a gang loses a leader, it loses command authority, operational coordination, and psychological dominance. Rival organizations see this as an opening to expand their territory or eliminate the weakened group entirely. In this context, leadership assassinations are not symbolic acts, but strategic tools of economic warfare. The 3 gangs operating in Jouberton, Al-Qaeda, Boko Haram, and Vietnam, each carved out territories and revenue sources within the township. Their competition turned Jouberton into a patchwork of contested zones, where crossing from one neighborhood to another could mean entering hostile territory. Residents learned to navigate these invisible boundaries, understanding which streets belonged to which gang, and adjusting their movements accordingly. This fragmentation of authority meant that even basic activities like shopping or attending community events required awareness of gang geography. 2 months before his death, Ndamoy appeared in the Klerksdorp Magistrates Court facing 2 serious charges: murder and unlawful possession of ammunition. Police had arrested him and searched his residence, where they discovered a magazine and ammunition. The court remanded him in custody, pending a formal bail application scheduled for May 18, 2022. The outcome of that bail hearing is not documented in available records, but the fact that Ndamoy was free and moving openly through Jouberton by mid-July indicates he either secured bail or the charges were temporarily suspended. These charges created immediate organizational risk. A gang leader facing murder charges becomes a liability. He may be pressured by investigators to provide information about the syndicate's operations, structure, and members in exchange for leniency. Even without active cooperation, his legal troubles force him to focus on his defense rather than managing the organization's daily operations. This distraction can create internal power struggles as lieutenants vie for control or external threats as rivals sense vulnerability. The timing of Ndamoy's assassination, just weeks after his public court appearance, suggests the charges accelerated whatever plans his enemies had been developing. A leader distracted by legal proceedings is easier to track, more predictable in his movements, and potentially more isolated from his usual security. Whether the charges directly caused his death or simply expedited an existing plan, they fundamentally altered his risk profile. Court appearances also function as intelligence opportunities for rival gangs. The public nature of court proceedings means that anyone can observe when a gang leader appears, note his behavior, assess his security arrangements, and gauge his psychological state. A leader who appears confident and well-supported sends a different message than one who seems isolated or anxious. And Ndamoy's court appearance in May would have been carefully watched by those tracking his vulnerabilities. The murder charge itself remains undocumented in detail. Police records confirm the charge existed, but provide no information about the alleged victim, the circumstances, or the evidence. This opacity is common in ongoing cases, but leaves crucial questions unanswered. If Ndamoy was charged with murdering a rival gang member, that would intensify the motive for retaliation. If the victim was a civilian or internal rival, that would suggest different dynamics. The absence of this information limits our understanding, but does not diminish the significance of the charge as a destabilizing factor. The assassination occurred at Extension 16 in Jouberton, a location already designated in municipal planning documents as a danger zone, crime spot. This classification reflects the area's high crime rates and weak state presence, making it an environment where criminal activity faces minimal interference. For assassins planning a high-profile hit, choosing such a location offers tactical advantages. Residents are less likely to intervene or provide detailed witness testimony, and the general atmosphere of violence provides cover for the operation. The hit team arrived in a white Toyota Quantum minibus, a common vehicle type in South African townships used for public transport and commercial purposes. Critically, the vehicle had no registration plates. This detail strongly suggests the minibus was stolen specifically for the operation or had its plates removed to prevent tracing. Using a disposable vehicle is standard practice in professional assassinations, allowing the team to abandon or destroy the vehicle immediately after the hit without leaving evidence that could lead back to the organizers. 3 men stepped out of the minibus and shot Ndamoy. Police reports confirm he died instantly. The speed and lethality of the attack indicate the shooters were competent, disciplined, and committed to ensuring the target did not survive. There was no prolonged confrontation, no warning, no opportunity for escape. The execution was designed for certainty. One detail from the police account demands particular attention. Ndamoy was standing next to his car, chatting to someone, when the hit team arrived. The identity of this person is not disclosed in any public record. In professional targeted killings, the presence of an unidentified individual immediately before the attack often indicates inside facilitation. High-value targets like gang leaders are typically difficult to locate and monitor. Their movements can be erratic, their security protocols unpredictable. Successfully executing such a hit requires precise intelligence about the target's location and a guarantee that he will be stationary and exposed at the critical moment. The person Ndamoy was speaking with could have been an unwitting decoy, someone used to keep him in place without knowing their role. Alternatively, this individual could have been a deliberate plant, someone who confirmed the target's position and ensured he remained vulnerable long enough for the hit team to arrive. Without arrests or further investigation disclosures, this remains speculative, but the operational logic of targeted assassinations suggests that someone provided the final confirmation that allowed the hit to proceed. After the shooting, the 3 men returned to the minibus and drove away. Police arrived at the scene and confirmed Ndamoy's death. As of the day following the murder, no arrests had been made, and authorities stated the motive was yet to be determined. This official uncertainty persisted in subsequent public records, with no later police statements linking specific individuals to the July 15th assassination. The choice of a Friday evening for the hit also carries tactical significance. Fridays in townships are typically busy with people finishing work, shopping for the weekend, and socializing. The ambient noise and activity provide additional cover for gunfire and create confusion that aids escape. Witnesses may be distracted, their attention divided among multiple activities. The hit team exploited these conditions, striking at a moment when the environment maximized their operational advantages. Ndamoy's death did not occur in isolation. It followed an established pattern of reciprocal leadership killings between the Al-Qaeda and Boko Haram gangs. Before Ndamoy was assassinated, the head of the Boko Haram gang had been killed in a drive-by shooting. The sequence of these two high-level murders, first Boko Haram's leader, then Al-Qaeda's leader, reveals a strategic approach to gang warfare. Rather than engaging in continuous street-level violence, these organizations target each other's command structures directly. This tactic serves multiple purposes. Killing a rival gang's leader disrupts operational coordination, demoralizes members, and creates opportunities to poach territory or resources during the resulting confusion. It also functions as a deterrent, signaling to rivals that no one, regardless of rank or perceived protection, is safe. The pattern suggests both organizations possess sophisticated intelligence networks capable of tracking high-value targets and the financial resources to commission professional hit teams. The reciprocal nature of these killings indicates neither side achieved lasting dominance through leadership elimination. Instead, both gangs demonstrated the capacity to regenerate their command structures and continue operations. This resilience points to decentralized organizational models where multiple individuals are capable of assuming leadership roles rather than hierarchies dependent on a single, irreplaceable figure. The drive-by shooting that killed the Boko Haram leader remains as poorly documented as Ndamoy's assassination. The date, location, and circumstances are not detailed in available police records. What matters is the strategic reality. One gang eliminated the other's top leader, establishing a blood debt that demanded repayment. In the Code of Organized Crime, such debts are not negotiable. They must be answered with equivalent violence, or the aggrieved party loses credibility and invites further attacks. This cycle creates a self-perpetuating dynamic. Each killing justifies the next, and each organization maintains a mental ledger of scores to be settled. Breaking this cycle requires either the complete destruction of one side or a negotiated truce backed by credible enforcement mechanisms. In Jouberton, neither condition existed. The gangs were too evenly matched for one to eliminate the other, and the state lacked the authority or leverage to broker a lasting peace. The violence that consumed Jouberton did not emerge suddenly. Between February and March 2021, the township experienced a dramatic escalation in gang warfare. Al-Qaeda and Boko Haram clashed repeatedly, resulting in the destruction of at least 11 houses and 4 vehicles through arson. The scale and intensity of this violence forced a response from the highest levels of provincial and national government. In April 2021, the Deputy Minister of Police, Kassel Matale, led a ministerial imbiso, a community meeting in Jouberton. The Premier of the Northwest Province and senior police officials attended. The stated purpose was to mobilize community members and local stakeholders to combat gangsterism and restore stability. Following this intervention, the South African Police Service established 2 dedicated task teams specifically focused on addressing gang violence, drug proliferation, and restoring order in Jouberton. The severity of the crisis was underscored by an incident that occurred during the height of the 2021 violence. Members of the warring gangs stormed the Jouberton police station, publicly accusing officers of colluding with rival factions. This brazen confrontation at a police facility reveals the extent to which the gangs felt empowered to challenge state authority directly. It also raises questions about the integrity and capacity of local law enforcement. Whether the accusations had merit or were tactical intimidation, the fact that gang members could make such claims openly without immediate arrest suggests either corruption within the police force or officers operating under such severe threat that they were unable or unwilling to respond effectively. The arson attacks during the February-March 2021 violence targeted residential properties and vehicles, assets that represented significant investments for their owners. Burning homes and cars served multiple functions. It punished rivals or suspected informants, displaced families to create territorial vacuums, and demonstrated the gang's willingness to inflict severe economic harm. For residents caught in the crossfire, these attacks created terror and forced difficult choices about whether to stay or flee. The 2 specialized task teams established after the ministerial imbiso represented a formal acknowledgement that standard policing was insufficient. These units were designed to focus exclusively on gang-related crime, combining intelligence gathering, targeted raids, and coordinated operations across jurisdictions. Their establishment marked a shift from reactive policing, responding to incidents after they occurred, to proactive disruption of gang operations and leadership structures. The gang's operational focus is control over money flows, both legitimate and illicit. The protection fee economy provides steady, predictable revenue. Business owners, particularly those running small shops, pay regular sums to the gang controlling their neighborhood. In exchange, they receive a promise that the gang will not attack them or their property. This system relies on fear and the demonstrated willingness of the gangs to follow through on threats. Shops that refuse to pay face vandalism, assault, or worse. The revenue generated funds the gang's broader operations, including weapons acquisition, vehicle purchases, and the hiring of hitmen for strategic assassinations. The tender wars represent the second major revenue stream. Municipal contracts for infrastructure projects, maintenance work, and service provision can be worth millions of rand. Gaining access to these contracts allows gangs to siphon public funds through multiple mechanisms. They submit inflated invoices for materials and labor, pocket the difference, and often fail to complete the work on time or to specification. They also extort additional money directly from construction sites, threatening project managers and workers with violence if they do not comply. A specific incident in July 2024 illustrates this dynamic. Members of the Al-Qaeda gang traveled to a taxi-rank construction site at Extension 19 West in Jouberton. They confronted the site manager, demanding both money and employment for gang members. This approach combines extortion with a demand for legitimate access, allowing gang members to be paid from the municipal budget while also extracting side payments. The provincial anti-gang unit arrested 4 individuals in connection with this incident, including someone police believed to be the current leader of Al-Qaeda at that time. These suspects were also linked to 4 separate murder cases committed in October 2023. The gang's involvement in municipal contracts extends beyond passive extortion. Historical reports document gang members storming municipal buildings and demanding to be awarded tenders directly. This aggressive infiltration of government procurement processes indicates either complicity or severe intimidation of municipal officials. The gangs have successfully inserted themselves into the formal economy of local government, treating public infrastructure spending as a resource to be captured through violence. The protection fee system operates on a predictable schedule. Gang members visit businesses weekly or monthly, collecting payments that can range from a few hundred to several thousand rand, depending on the business's size and profitability. Shop owners who cooperate are left alone. Those who resist face escalating pressure. First verbal threats, then vandalism, then physical violence against the owner or employees. This graduated response system is designed to demonstrate consequences while giving business owners multiple opportunities to comply before facing the most severe repercussions. For small business owners, these fees represent a significant financial burden but also a form of insurance in an environment where police protection is unreliable. The gangs, perversely, provide a service. They prevent other criminals from attacking shops within their territory. This creates a twisted legitimacy, where business owners view the fees as necessary costs rather than criminal extortion. The gangs reinforce this perception by occasionally intervening to stop robberies or resolve disputes, positioning themselves as community protectors rather than parasites. Klerksdorp's organized crime cannot be understood without acknowledging the illegal mining sector. The Northwest Province contains significant mineral deposits, and the illicit extraction of these resources generates billions of rand in lost production annually. Illegal miners, commonly known as zama-zamas, operate in abandoned or poorly secured mine shafts, extracting ore and selling it through black market channels. Many of these miners have connections to the same criminal syndicates involved in extortion and tender fraud. The relationship between the gangs and illegal mining is complex and not entirely documented in available records. What is clear is that law enforcement actions targeting illegal mining have had unintended consequences for community safety. When authorities closed 2 mine shafts in the Klerksdorp area, the zama-zamas who had been operating there were displaced. With their primary income source severed, many moved into surrounding townships and turned to more visible forms of criminality. Police records note a significant increase in house and business robberies in areas like Jouberton following these mine closures. This displacement intensified competition among the established gangs. With more criminals operating in the same geographic area and competing for a finite pool of extortion targets and tender opportunities, violence escalated. The closure of illegal mining operations, intended to reduce crime, instead shifted criminal activity from remote mine sites into populated residential areas, increasing the danger faced by ordinary residents. The criminal economy extends beyond mining and extortion. In related operations across the Northwest, Gauteng, and Western Cape provinces, authorities dismantled at least 9 drug laboratories. These facilities produced illegal narcotics for distribution, adding another revenue stream to the syndicates' portfolios. The existence of these labs underscores the polycriminal nature of these organizations. They are not specialized in a single illicit activity, but operate diversified criminal enterprises spanning extortion, drug manufacturing, contract fraud, and likely arms trafficking. The illegal mining operations themselves are highly organized. Zama-zamas work in teams, often with sophisticated equipment and established supply chains. They need buyers for the ore they extract, transportation networks to move the material, and protection from both police and rival mining groups. Gangs like Al-Qaeda and Boko Haram can provide these services, taking a percentage of profits in exchange for security and market access. This symbiotic relationship ties township gangs to a broader criminal economy that extends deep into South Africa's mineral wealth. When mine shafts were closed, the Zama-zamas lost not just employment, but an entire economic ecosystem. These miners had been extracting valuable ore, selling it, and supporting families. The sudden closure forced immediate adaptation. Some miners moved to other shafts, but capacity was limited. Others turned to alternative crimes: robbery, burglary, vehicle theft. This influx of newly desperate criminals into townships created pressure on existing gang structures. The gangs needed to either absorb these individuals, fight them, or cede territory. Each option carried risks and costs. The South African government's response to the Jouberton crisis involved high-level political engagement and specialized law enforcement resources. The 2021 ministerial Imbizo and the establishment of dedicated anti-gang task teams represented a formal acknowledgement of the severity of the threat. These task teams, operating under the Provincial Anti-Gang Unit in coordination with organized crime and tactical response teams, have conducted multiple operations targeting the gang's leadership and financial infrastructure. The July 2024 arrests of 4 alleged Al-Qaeda members, including a presumed gang leader, resulted in the seizure of high-value vehicles, a Toyota Hilux and a BMW. Targeting vehicles serves a dual purpose. These assets represent significant financial investments and status symbols within the criminal hierarchy. Seizing them disrupts the gang's operational mobility and strikes at the visible markers of success that attract recruits. Additionally, the 4 suspects arrested in July 2024 were linked to 4 murder cases from October 2023, indicating that investigators were connecting current extortion activities to past violent crimes and building cases against key organizational figures. In April 2024, renewed violence erupted between Al-Qaeda and Boko Haram. The trigger was a confrontation over protection fee collection. Members of Al-Qaeda encountered Boko Haram members inside a tuck shop, where the rival gang was collecting payment from the shop owner. The confrontation escalated into a shooting, resulting in 3 deaths and 9 injuries. This incident, occurring nearly 2 years after Ndamoy's assassination, demonstrates that neither his death nor the subsequent arrests had ended the gang war. The underlying economic incentives remained intact, and both organizations continued to operate with lethal capability. Despite the commitment of resources and the arrests of multiple alleged gang leaders, the persistence of violence suggests significant challenges in dismantling these networks. The gangs operate with a level of community integration and institutional penetration that makes them difficult to uproot. Whether through corruption, intimidation, or simply the reality of limited police capacity in under-resourced townships, the state has not established the consistent, overwhelming presence necessary to eliminate the threat. The specialized task teams have achieved measurable successes. They have arrested dozens of gang members, seized weapons and vehicles, and disrupted specific operations. These interventions create temporary instability within the gangs, forcing them to adapt and rebuild. But temporary disruption is not permanent dismantlement. The gangs have proven capable of regenerating leadership, recruiting new members, and resuming operations after each police action. This resilience suggests the organizations are more robust than initial assessments indicated. Part of the challenge lies in the judicial system's capacity. Arrests mean little if cases collapse in court due to inadequate evidence, witness intimidation, or procedural failures. Gang members who are arrested and then released on bail or acquitted return to their organizations with enhanced credibility and a deeper understanding of police methods. This revolving door effect undermines enforcement efforts and signals to gang members that the risks of arrest are manageable. The official police investigation into Ndamoy's assassination remains inconclusive. No arrests have been publicly announced for the July 15, 2022, murder. The motive, while officially yet to be determined, can be analyzed through the available evidence, but certainty requires either confessions or prosecutions that have not materialized. Two primary explanations emerge from the facts. The first is inter-gang retaliation. The killing of the Boko Haram leader prior to Ndamoy's death established a clear motive for revenge. In the logic of gang warfare, the assassination of a rival's top figure demands a proportional response. Allowing such a killing to go unanswered signals weakness and invites further attacks. If Boko Haram commissioned the hit on Ndamoy, it would represent a strategic counterstrike designed to restore the balance of power and demonstrate continued operational capability despite the loss of their own leader. The second explanation involves internal elimination. Ndamoy's legal exposure created organizational risk. A gang leader facing murder charges and in possession of illegal ammunition is a liability. If he were to cooperate with investigators, either voluntarily or under pressure, he could compromise the entire network. Even without active cooperation, his legal troubles distracted him from leadership responsibilities and made him a less effective commander. In this scenario, Al-Qaeda's own members or a rival faction within the gang could have decided that Ndamoy had become too dangerous to the organization's survival and commissioned his execution to protect the syndicate. Both explanations are consistent with the available facts. The presence of the unidentified person Ndamoy was speaking with before the hit lends some support to the internal elimination theory, as it suggests insider knowledge and coordination. However, rival organizations also invest heavily in intelligence gathering, and could have placed an informant or simply monitored Ndamoy's movements until an opportunity arose. The lack of arrests 2 years after the murder indicates either investigative challenges or a deliberate decision to prioritize other targets. The specialized anti-gang units have clearly maintained pressure on the Al-Qaeda organization, arresting subsequent leaders and dismantling financial assets. The Ndamoy case may remain officially open, but operationally deprioritized in favor of ongoing disruption efforts against the broader syndicate. Witness cooperation presents another major obstacle. In communities where gangs exercise significant control, residents understand that speaking to police can be fatal. The gangs have demonstrated their willingness to kill those who threaten their operations, and witnesses know this. Even if someone saw the hit team clearly, providing that information to authorities requires trusting that police can guarantee protection. In Jouberton, that trust is absent. Residents have seen gang members operate with impunity, watched police fail to make arrests, and witnessed the consequences for those labeled as informants. What stands out most clearly in the years following Ndamoy's death is the resilience of the gang structure. Al-Qaeda did not collapse or dissolve. Instead, new leadership emerged and operations continued. The April 2024 violence over protection fees and the July 2024 arrests of a new alleged leader demonstrate that the organization regenerated its command hierarchy multiple times. This resilience suggests the gang operates with a decentralized structure or a deep bench of capable individuals ready to step into leadership roles when predecessors are killed or arrested. Boko Haram has similarly persisted despite losing its own leader prior to 2022. The ongoing confrontations between the two gangs indicate both have maintained operational capacity, territorial control, and access to weapons and funding. This durability reflects the economic foundations of their existence. As long as there are businesses to extort and municipal contracts to capture, there will be financial incentives for organized crime. As long as the state's presence remains weak or compromised in areas like Jubeton, there will be space for these organizations to operate. The displacement of illegal miners from closed mine shafts added pressure to an already strained environment. More criminals competing for the same resources increased violence and expanded the pool of individuals willing to work for the gangs. The drug laboratories dismantled across multiple provinces indicate the syndicates operate regionally, not just locally, with networks extending beyond Jouberton and Klerksdorp into major metropolitan areas. The gang's ability to regenerate leadership points to organizational sophistication. Rather than relying on a single charismatic or capable leader, these syndicates cultivate multiple individuals with command experience. This redundancy protects the organization from decapitation strategies. When one leader is killed or arrested, another steps forward, minimizing disruption. This model requires internal discipline and clear succession protocols, suggesting the gangs have invested in organizational development beyond simple street violence. Jouberton remains a contested space. The designation of Extension 16 as a crime hotspot has not changed. The taxi rank construction site at Extension 19 West, where extortion occurred in 2024, represents the ongoing intersection of legitimate development and criminal exploitation. Every infrastructure project becomes an opportunity for the gangs to extract money. Every business a potential source of protection fees. Every leadership vacancy a chance for violent succession. Residents live under a system where criminal organizations function as shadow governments, collecting taxes, adjudicating disputes, and enforcing their own rules through violence. The state's periodic interventions, ministerial meetings, specialized task forces, high-profile arrests, have not fundamentally altered this reality. They disrupt specific operations, remove specific individuals, but do not dismantle the underlying structures that make organized crime profitable and sustainable. The assassination of Poul Ndamoy was one event in a long sequence of violence. His death did not end the gang war, did not trigger mass arrests of his killers, and did not fundamentally change the power dynamics in Jouberton. It was a tactical move in an ongoing strategic competition over economic resources. Whether ordered by rivals seeking revenge or by his own organization cutting its losses, the result was the same. Ndamoy was removed, and the system continued. Daily life in Jouberton requires navigating this parallel governance structure. Residents know which areas belong to which gang, understand the unwritten rules that govern movement and commerce, and adjust their behavior accordingly. Shop owners budget for protection fees alongside rent and utilities. Construction workers expect gang representatives to arrive demanding money or jobs. Parents warn children about gang boundaries and the consequences of crossing into rival territory. This normalization of gang control represents a fundamental failure of state authority. When citizens look to criminals rather than police for security, when business owners pay gangs instead of relying on legal protection, when municipal resources are routinely diverted to criminal enterprises, the social contract has broken down. The state exists in theory but not in practice. Its authority is nominal, exercised sporadically through raids and arrests that create temporary disruption but no lasting change. The story of Poul Ndamoy's assassination is not primarily about one man's death. It is about the mechanics of organized crime in a space where state authority is weak, economic opportunities are scarce, and violence is a rational tool for market control. The gangs that fight over Jouberton are not aberrations. They are responses to structural conditions: poverty, unemployment, the lucrative illegal mining economy, and the vulnerability of municipal procurement systems to infiltration and fraud. Ndamoy stood on a street corner in designer clothes, chatting with someone, and 3 men shot him. The precision of the hit, the choice of location, the use of a disposable vehicle, and the likely role of insider information all point to a sophisticated operation backed by significant resources. Yet despite this sophistication, the case remains unsolved. Despite dedicated police units and ministerial attention, the gangs continue to operate. Despite arrests of multiple leaders, new leaders emerge. This persistence suggests the problem is not a lack of enforcement capacity or political will, though both may be factors. The problem is that the incentives for organized crime remain intact. The protection fee economy is profitable because businesses have no alternative security provider. The tender system is vulnerable because oversight is insufficient and officials are either complicit or intimidated. Illegal mining continues because abandoned shafts are poorly secured and black market buyers are readily available. Ndamoy's death answered a tactical question: who would control Al-Qaeda after his legal troubles, but left the strategic questions unaddressed. Until the economic foundations of gang power are dismantled, until the state establishes consistent authority in places like Jouberton, until municipal contracting is secured and illegal mining is effectively suppressed, the cycle will continue. Leaders will be killed, new leaders will rise, and townships will remain contested territories where violence is the primary mechanism of governance. The 3 men who killed Ndamoy may never be identified, but the system that made his assassination both possible and profitable is operating openly, in full view of everyone watching. The gangs understand the economics of their environment better than the authorities trying to stop them. They have adapted to enforcement pressure, developed resilient organizational structures, and embedded themselves deeply enough in community life that removing them would require not just arrests, but fundamental economic and institutional transformation. That transformation has not begun. The specialized task forces arrest gang members, but the gangs recruit replacements. Police seize vehicles and weapons, but the revenue streams remain intact. Ministers hold community meetings, but residents still pay protection fees. The cycle perpetuates because the underlying conditions that created it persist unchanged. Ndamoy's assassination was one turn of that cycle, a moment of violence that resolved nothing and changed nothing except who would lead one gang in an ongoing war over resources that neither side can fully control.